Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my name's Linda Nowlan. I'm here at the rowdy table. We had a few comments about the values. We think that there's a few that are missing, particularly the inherent value of water as an exhaustible, vulnerable resource. And I've looked at some examples from other provinces and other places. And for example, Quebec's new water law passed last summer says, water is indispensable to life and is a vulnerable and exhaustible resource. And water resources are part of the common heritage of the province, and it's important to preserve water and improve water management to meet the needs of present and future generations. So that's sort of a general overall comment. We also don't think that there's really enough about public participation and the rights of the public in here. And specifically, on some of the principles, we need to talk about water as a public good. We need to talk about the role of government in protecting the resource. I'm scrolling down a bit because I see someone's typing there. There's, in terms of the ones that are listed here, we had a few problems with the sustainable limits in the first principle. Not really sure what that means. Number 3, science should be required to inform water resource management. The words about investors and the investment climate, we weren't really clear about the emphasis on investors and the investment climate. This is about protecting the water resources of BC, using it sustainably. So we would prefer to just see in number 5, rules and standards for water management are clearly defined, period. And similarly, number 7, incentives are created for water conservation, period. Not about investors. And in the last one, number 8, rights to use water come with responsibilities to be efficient and help protect watershed or ecosystem health rather than stream health. And again, there's a lot of places where they've considered this idea, and I'm sure that all of you working on this issue have looked at other places, but particularly the new Quebec water law, Alberta's Water for Life, and also the Okanagan Sustainable Water Strategy have some more visionary language about water. And we thought at this table that we weren't being visionary enough about how important water is to BC and how important environmental protection is. And we harkened back to the Premier's promise to make this the best water management in the world, bar none, something like that. So we don't see that kind of really gung-ho attitude here. And did I say public good? Yes, okay. So that's about it for my article.
Thank you so much.
So this is the
Anne.
Good morning, my name is Anne-Marie Sam, and I'm from Nakasley, North Central BC. So at our table, the one thing that stuck out for me and I shared with our table was that this assumption that it's all about people. Read through the booklet, there's no mention of wildlife in protecting areas and protecting habitat. So that stuck out for me. It's just because the animals can't come to these meetings doesn't mean that water is not important to them. So somehow we have to integrate that into these discussions. We also brought up the concern about the priority on investment, and the wording around providing a predictable investment climate across BC. And so what does that say? So if there is a strong economy, then maybe there may be strong standards, but if not, then we'll just let whatever happens. So that wording has to be definitely changed. A lot of talk about protection of how water is taken out, how much is taken, when, and by who, but no connection to what is going into the water. And so having to take a step back and looking at proposed projects and how strong our environmental assessment process is in protecting what goes into the water. We could take it out, but do we really want to if there's mercury poisoning, or if there's arsenic, or if there's other issues? So we really have to step back and look at land use planning or water planning throughout BC. I said the connection to the EA process is really important. Pete had mentioned Site C being 2 days ago announced, and even though there are a lot of concerns about this project, it's still being pushed ahead, and so the concern about, is BC really going to listen? I mean, and the reports have come out saying that maybe Site C isn't needed. It was developed at a time when green energy processes weren't available. There's more access to wind energy and different types, and so is Site C the best use of that area? There's no discussion in here on fines or penalties. Maybe we'll get to that later, but just on what happens if you do break the rules here, what happens and who pays, and why the Water Act modernization by itself, when you have an outdated mining policy that allows companies to go in and use lakes as tailings ponds, which is a federal law, but is allowed, and allowed to dig up and destroy whole headwaters of watersheds. But then you're still wanting to protect what comes out at the end. So it just seems a little bit of a disconnection to the bigger picture. And also, the last one I think is number 2, the First Nations social and cultural practices. An assumption there again that we don't have an interest in the economic value of our water. And so just to point that out, that maybe there is something that could work if First Nations are involved more within their territories, and proper planning is in place, and that they could get involved in the development if that is what they decided on. And just an assumption again too, that the decision makers, and the number 3 throughout the booklet also it says decision makers over and over again, and who are the decision makers, and really emphasis on BC and the feds making decisions, but how do communities get involved in what happens to our water? So I think that is all.
Thank you, Anne.